All right, here we go. Overdrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app. Your home smart speaker up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, Doug, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan. How we doing on a beautiful Thursday?
There's my guy, Blue Steel. He struck again.
Another little haircut or what?
Noodles, we filmed something today, some TSN colleagues. We did some little golf stuff at Golf Town with our buddy Hugh. And there was a pick. An old Hazy B struck again on the corner pocket. He looked into that camera and he melted it. He melted it.
Well, okay, I got jobbed a little bit here, all right?
No, you didn't. Why? Because the light?
Yeah, because we're at the sim, right? And the sim light was right in my face. I didn't notice that. So everyone else in the picture looks phenomenal.
Are you saying the light made you do that look?
It had me dimming a little bit because of the angle I had. I was at the end. I was throwing a vibe out there because I figured, why not, right? We're representing the company, representing the show. Everywhere I go, I try to represent the two of you as well as I can. And I figured if that pick's going to be out there, and it will, Golf Town's going to blast it out. TaylorMade's going to make sure it's everywhere. Kara was there, Lindsay, Duffy, Bobby Weeks, Scully, who hits the ball 425 yards. Carlo was there. The whole crew. It was great to see everybody. Everyone else had a picture lined up or a stance lined up that had perfect lighting. Mine, I was being blinded by the sim, so I just decided no smile. Straight Blue Steel, and if it lands, it lands, and it landed. It landed. What do you want me to do, man?
Bonus points for that one.
Yeah.
I looked at that pic. I'm like, he just melted that camera with that glare. That's going to get attention. It's going to get likes. It's going to get promos and pushes.
Yes. Well, I appreciate that, and that was my plan. You know, I felt good in there. I thought we were all hitting the ball well. Everyone was feeling good. Golf season's officially arrived, and naturally, it's a combination of how's the golf game, when you get out to play, and what do you think's going to happen in the playoffs? You know,
that's what it is right now. I've already gotten a zillion. Like, course open yet? When you playing? What? Leafs and Bruins? Well, what is it? Leafs and 7?
Yeah.
It is just the barrage of spring questions.
I love
Canadians will always have a weather question attached if there's a 3 or 4 pack. And then it's just Leafs. When's the rain going to go away? Golf course. Oh, there it is. Look
at that light.
Look at the lighting, Noodles, though. Like I look like Cyclops.
You got yellow paint on your face.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
I do. I have the Cyclops vibe. Everyone else looks great, and I look like I'm a prop. I don't even look like I'm real. They've basically photoshopped me in with Cyclops eyes, like O's in there tight with Hugh Burrell. Whispering like Sheldon Keefe was to Auston Matthews last night.
Best buddies.
Yeah. And there's me at the end. You can see Kara's like, can this guy get out of here with his weird face? But anyway, what are you going to do? I mean, it happens sometimes.
Are
I
you
can't
saying
control
that's
that.
the light? That's the light coming through a window or what?
It's the sim light. So like the way the sim
works.
works.
Like a projector light.
It's a projector light, exactly. So it picks up on the details of the golf ball, and it can project, spin rate, ball speed, where it's going to go on the screen. And I just happened to be in the worst possible place.
Why did you lean in and get that off your face?
I don't know.
Didn't you know it was on your face?
Because a lean in is awkward. Do you think Kara wants me breathing on her neck
that's fair.
for a picture?
But
I
why
can't
don't you stop
go for
the picture? Go, hold on a second.
What,
You got the light in
get
my
it.
Should have. You're right.
I get it with people say I'm not standing like this for pics and stuff because I was feeling good about myself. I had my golf gear on.
You look
great.
I
felt slim and trim. And when I took that side view, I saw the pic of myself, and I'm just right back to moose mode with the side view. You gotta face it head on. You gotta go head on. Put that pic back up because I saw the pic and I'm like that. I thought I was grooving in there, and I am a monster. I went right back to monster mode. That is not what I look like in real life. I had a groove going, and I hate that pic.
Yeah, I mean, you look great, but you did yourself a disservice. When you do the arm up, the boiler goes with it, and then the chins come in. Because you had you can't do an arm over with a taller guy because everything comes into focus that you do not want to be in focus. So that was your fault. I should have moved. Basically, if they cut me and you out, it's a great pick.
It is. Like, if you just remove us, it's an awesome pick. It's like everyone, just cut our heads off while your head would still have the light on it. But we got to edit that or something.
Yeah.
I'll drive back tomorrow if I have to.
I will too.
But those other people
sure.
won't be there, though. That's the thing. You two will be standing there by yourself. You're right. You bookend a really nice picture, both of you. Now, you're right. It's a tough angle because that's not what you look like. Like, look at yourself on the screen right now.
Looks great.
You look great. Like, that's just a tough angle. And Hayes, you got light in your eyes. So
it was a tough pick. It's all it was. Sometimes a pick doesn't work out. And for the other 2/3 of this show, we didn't have our best moment for the pick. That's all it is. We're going to move on.
It happens. We move on. Everyone's happy. It was great to see everyone today. And yeah, the Leafs-Bruins, are buzzing. It's great that the regular season's over. It was really a weird way to finish for the Leafs.
God,
let's
I
call it what it is.
It was awkward near the end.
Really awkward, really sour. Let's call it what it is. It sucks that Matthews didn't get to 70. So 69, the idea that this is going to be downplayed somehow is an injustice to the season that guy just had. I don't think we should be dying on the hill that it would have been that much better if he hit 70. 69 is still insane. The guy scored basically every night. He put forth arguably the greatest regular season in franchise history. It's either for me, it's either that one or Gilmore in 93. Doug Gilmore had 127 points in 93. But for him to score 69 goals, play the way he played, but he had 2.5 games to get it, and it was basically the Matthews show. And if you weren't out on the ice with Auston, it was as if you were just floating. The rest of them were bit players. Right?
Yeah.
If Matthews wasn't on the ice, just from a viewing experience standpoint, I was basically like, can you change? Get out. Why are you guys on the ice?
They're just killing time while he was getting a breather. But the weird thing, though, I got to be honest, though, I want your both of your opinion because I have a weird opinion. John Tavares scoring that goal at the end, I was
awkward.
What was
he doing?
Talk about awkward.
Don't shoot the puck at the net. What are you doing?
There's a reason why you pull the goalie at 6'2", 6'3". You're trying to get to 70. You're not trying to win that game last night. Everybody in both teams knew it. Tavares just fires that. But I was like, is he? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I was like, what was going on there?
Well, maybe he was hoping for a tip or a rebound, which I can understand. The Brody one's more extreme. That guy hasn't scored since 2012. TJ Brody.
Hang on a sec. We can't be talking about guys scoring.
You still have to play the game.
Brody literally was like, I got to get this on net, and it went in, and everyone was like, what in the hell? Everyone was like, please, Matthews, have a tip on that.
Yeah.
Have a tip on that. And I think the puck came to Johnny, and he was like, I guess I'm just going to shoot this and see what happens. And it went in the net.
I know. It's awkward. It's awkward. And what are you going to do? I mean, the puck goes in, and the goaltending was not exactly stellar on either side last night. But it was a really strange viewing experience the last 2.5 games. The Saturday night game in Detroit against Detroit was electric. He scores early. He's at 69. The place is going nuts. And then they roll through Florida, and it was as if Matthews was there to try to score, and the rest of the team was on spring break. William Nylander should have had a sunscreen deal going on down there or something. He could not have cared less. I think it's a bad look, but it doesn't matter in terms of what's going to happen on Saturday.
Pasternak was. I talked to a Bruins fan, and he goes. It was the other day. He's like, the last 2 games, Pasternak has just been giving the puck away, just a ghost out there. And they're not writing articles, what the hell's wrong with
irrelevant.
Pasternak. But they almost get more of a hall pass more than William Nylander, because for Willie, it's like, why would you just put that on yourself?
But he had such a great year, too. That's the thing you're doing yourself a disservice, because he had an unbelievable season.
But isn't it he should have had 100, he never got to 100 points.
I know, which is also...
That's the other thing. There was a time where we were talking on the show maybe a month and a half ago. It's he's on pace for 125 points.
That was at the start of the year when he was rocking.
No, I'm talking in February. He had a stretch in February where he scored 5 games in a row, I believe.
Yeah, I guess you're right, yeah. Yeah, he hasn't scored in 12 games, I think, coming into the playoffs.
He had 3 assists the last 10 games.
Yeah.
But this guy was... for me, 100 was the lock. It was, is he going to end at 105, 110? I know you slow down and the games get a little bit tighter, all of that type of stuff. You're focused on Matthews. But, he no wingers had 100 points, correct? Right. It's like that would have been something for him, He's had a great year, all of that. And you're not trying to kick stones on guys. Guys had great seasons. It's just forget it now. You got to focus on Saturday because they didn't. This last week of hockey wasn't, the team's best. We'll call it that.
No, it wasn't. I don't believe it's going to play any role in terms of preparation for Saturday night at all. I mean, if they had have won the last 4 games and Matthews got to 70 and Willie had 105 points, that doesn't mean they're sweeping the Bruins, right? I really
not at all.
I think
you're right.
They have been locked in. It's a difficult mentality to have and likely approach coming down the stretch because they knew who they were and what they were. They knew they were the 3rd seed in the division. Like it's been locked up for like weeks, really.
Yeah.
And they knew what was coming. They couldn't necessarily control who they were going to play. Although if they had a beat in Florida, it would be Florida. But both matchups are going to be tough, and you're going to start both on the road, either at Florida or at Boston. So they also are, I think, keenly aware that this is when it really is going to matter. And I know that applies to every team, but let's be clear here. Washington, it was about getting OV 30 or as many goals as you can. And if you punched a ticket, awesome. They get swept, no one's going to care. Everyone's going to say that was a successful year. I think the Islanders, you bring in Waugh, good run, you get in, awesome. I think probably the same thing applies with Nashville. They may not want to hear it, but they had an unbelievable second half. Good for you. You got in, see what kind of damage you could do. Then there's different layers of expectation and different layers of focus in terms of what you've done in your past and what you need to do in your future. And the Leafs are at the top of the list or real close to it in terms of them understanding what was going to define the season was what happens game 83 onward. And I'm sure that's been hanging over them. I hope this wasn't a sign of nerves kicking in because they're understanding what's coming. But they got a couple of days now to just completely decompress. I don't know where they are. I'm assuming they stayed down in Tampa. They'll fly up to Boston. Game 1, Saturday night. Sounds like game 2 on Monday night. It's go time now. 69 goals is irrelevant. 98 points for Nylander, irrelevant. Sheldon Keefe getting them back to the playoffs again. I mean, he's a really good regular season coach. But now the heat is on for every single
Maroon
player.
Had a great line, Hazy. He's like, it's playoff time, and this guy's been through the ringer, as we know. He won 3 cups in a row. He said it's the playoffs. You see who's got it and who doesn't. It's just a great, simple line. Who's got it and who doesn't? I mean, you might have it and you might lose in a Game 7 on a power play, and that doesn't necessarily mean you don't have it. But you get dummied or pumped in 5 or 4, that basically means you don't have it. So we're going to see come Saturday night, it's the beginning of it, to see who's got it and who doesn't. And I love the line. I love it, how it reflects the playoffs and how it's so appropriate. Like, let's see who's got some jam. Everyone's got talent. Everyone's got good players. What goalie can stand up and make saves? What power play can get cooking? What star players can outduel the other ones? What star players want to step outside their comfort zone and grind and battle in the corners when they don't necessarily do that in the regular season? That's everything that's enjoyable about the Stanley Cup playoffs.
It's true. It's true. I know Maroon a little bit. I happened to have a chat with him in Boston the other day. He didn't play that night against Ottawa, and it's funny because sometimes I forgot he was in Boston. Right? You start doing your roster and that you're like, oh, Maroon. So they made the move for him, and his guy's got pedigree. He knows exactly what he is as a player, and I think his statement is bang on. But it applies to everybody. It's going to be all 16 teams that statement applies to. And you know what? Let's see what happens come Saturday night. It'll be, and now the season ends tonight. There's still some crazy seeding. Like Edmonton doesn't know who they play. The chances are if Vegas beats Anaheim, which they should, but then the goalie, who knows? I'm not sure if Dostal's playing tonight. That's the guy who stole or tried to steal the game against the Leafs this year.
Right. Vegas is a massive favorite on FanDuel. Naturally, LA's a massive favorite against Chicago on FanDuel, as you would expect. I assume you presume both teams are going to win, and then it's Edmonton, Vegas. If I'm the Oilers, obviously I'm rooting heavily for Anaheim to find a way to upset them. But the crazy thing is,
Edmonton result doesn't matter.
No, Edmonton's done. They're second place in the division.
I think they're going to rest everybody.
Yeah,
tonight.
there's no. They're playing against Colorado. Colorado, the same thing. They're going to Winnipeg. That'll be a no-hitter agreement, just like the Leafs in Tampa. Let's get everyone out of here. Maybe McKinnon tries to get on the board for whatever reason if he's playing. But the crazy thing is Vegas is either going to Edmonton or Dallas. Like, it's one of those two teams because Vancouver's locked in. They've got Nashville.
Yeah.
So it's either Vegas wins tonight, they go to Edmonton. Vegas loses tonight, they go to Dallas. And the same thing applies with LA based on what happens in the Vegas game and what they do. So it seems likely you're looking at Vegas going to Edmonton, then LA will go to Dallas. And obviously, if you're Dallas, you're thinking the same thing. Like, you're the top seed in the West. You've had a great year. There's a chance if something hiccups tonight, you're going to have Vegas in the first round. And obviously, there's history there with Pete DeBoer, and that would be a pretty wild series. But it's moving towards Leafs, Bruins, Florida, Tampa. Obviously, we know Rangers, Caps, Carolina versus the Islanders. That's set in the East. In the West, it's Vancouver, Nashville, Colorado versus Winnipeg, and more than likely Dallas playing LA, Edmonton playing Vegas. So
damn good teams.
Really
good
teams, really good series. Yeah, there's going to be a number of teams that are going to go home that will feel at this point, if you ask them in a candid moment, do you think you can win a Stanley Cup? They'd say yes. And they'll be going home in like 10 days, 14 days.
Or less.
Or less. Yeah, that's how quickly it comes. So we will work under the presumption that Vegas wins tonight. It's going to be Edmonton, Vegas in the first round, Dallas, LA. I'm going to come back. I have tried to rank 1 through 8 the series that are toughest to predict. So I will have that for you. I've got a 5-pack of storylines going into Leafs-Bruins that I'm going to unveil. You guys can react to that. You guys can chip in with honorable mentions or completely fight back and push back and maybe come up with a different list or a couple of alterations on the fly. We've got Darren
I don't
Pang.
know if I want to get in a tilt with a guy with that look that looked into the camera.
The laser face?
Oh, man.
I might need to crop everyone else out of that pick and just use that as my pick. Right? Cyclops before the playoffs. That's how dialed
Green Lantern.
Green
Carlo
Lantern.
tweeted that Green Lantern.
Green
Carlo
Lantern.
tweeted out the Green Lantern mask.
I saw that.
Chris Edwards just sent me a note saying, you look like a huge Team Sweden fan. You know,
Team Sweden.
Yeah, they paint the faces.
Oh, yeah. It is a little bit Swedish.
It's got a yellow. Is it yellow or is that green? Like,
it looks greenish to me.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Sweden will fly, but it's just I got jobbed. I mean, what else? You know what it could be? It could be the new Salt Lake City colors. Maybe it was what do they call that? A premonition? It was me looking towards the Board of Governor meetings, signing off, and I guess that's become official. The Arizona Coyotes finally out. That was a weird. Do you see the Shane Doan story? That his banner, they left it in like the garbage at the old arena, and I guess
a fan brought it.
A fan grabbed it, and I've seen reporters in Arizona saying that people reached out to the owners and said, "Hey, don't forget about this. We have it. Can you send someone to pick it up?" And they just never came to pick it up.
It's pathetic.
It's
man.
pathetic.
I get it. I get it. You're leaving, but you don't have the decency to send over somebody that can go get that. Like,
right.
Give your head a shake.
That's your history. That's Shane Doan, the greatest player in franchise history, the face of the franchise since he
and his
arrived.
Son's there.
His son's a part of your team, playing for your team. His jersey's retired. By all accounts, he's been the definition of an athlete in a town, like what people want in their city, in terms of kids, in terms of charity, in terms of community. The whole city loves him. The whole state loves him. You move arenas to a university rink and you leave the guy's banner at the old barn and just say, screw it, throw it in the dumpster. That alone should have made you lose the team. Like, even if they had economic standing, Bettman should have had the stones to call up and say, we just heard something. You're out. Like, you're losing the team because we can't have you associated with our group.
Keep in mind, Shane Doan is a big mentor for Auston Matthews, Matthew Nyes. Like, those guys wouldn't be, they're so talented. They're NHL players, all of that, superstars. But I'm saying hockey in Arizona, Shane Doan was a big part of that. And obviously Nyes and Matthews being from there, like, you hear them talk about it. Like, they're trying to, like, their media recently, I know Matthews and Nyes talked about it, but they were kind of biting their tongue. Like, I would love to hear in a candid moment how disappointed they are. Like, they grew up watching.
Let's be thankful, guys. Let's be thankful that they couldn't get their you-know-what together. Because if they had some gorgeous arena that was opening this September, guess what that could have affected?
Yeah, if they were chugging in, like, cup content, if they were Vegas in Arizona, then
well,
there's
let's
a chance.
just say the rink was being unveiled in the fall. Guess what? They would have been pretty fired up about the opportunity about bringing in 34 to kind of unveil the new rink and start from scratch. And let's just be thankful because I think Auston Matthews is committed to the Maple Leafs and he loves it here and everything. But that would have been a bit. He knew that was a sideshow, and it's almost like they eliminated themselves with where they're at. But if they had, all these different plans and they were moving and shaking, that would have been a big time distraction.
Well, you know what would have been as well, hypothetically? Imagine he didn't sign his extension last summer and he had finished with 69 goals, and that was still up in the air. That he's going to sign in the summer and he'll cross that bridge when he gets to it.
After the playoffs,
I'll see how it goes. If we win, maybe I'll stick around. If we lose, I'm going to have to think about it.
That's the Kawhi. That would be like,
Can you imagine that situation right now if Matthews wasn't under contract and, 69 goals when he was chugging? Because I'm thankful for that they had the foresight to get it done. And obviously both sides had a lot at stake and there was leverage on both sides and they wanted to get it done and they did. But the idea of him chugging towards 70 with that hanging over it, it would have been draining. Like it would have been exhausting, the amount of what's he going to do? What's he going to get? What do you sign him for now? What about this? Reports of, he likes it in LA. All that kind of stuff would have been coming out nonstop. It would have been nauseating. And it was a pure chase for 70. Just a pure chase. Wasn't cheated. Wasn't like this team was terrible and it was the only thing going. Like Carlson when he got to 100 points last year, that was incredible. I'm not downplaying his accomplishment, but he was on the worst team in the league. The worst team in the league, putting together 100 points. This guy just scored 69 goals for a team that finished with 102 points and is going back to the playoffs for the 8th straight year. It just allowed it to be way quieter yet more enjoyable. And now we see what he does in the playoffs, and we see where the Leafs take it from here. So we'll come back with our storylines going into the series. Tomorrow we're going to have predictions for all 8. Once we know exactly who's playing everybody, we will get to that. We've got Darren Pang coming up today. We've got our buddy Pierre LeBrun as well as we look ahead to the final night of the NHL season, start turning the page in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, naturally, people online are having a field day with my green face picture from earlier today. Ryan tweeting and saying you're halfway to the mask. Remember Jim Carrey in the mask?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The green head. Someone saying kind of look like William Wallace from Braveheart. I like that.
Come on,
I got a William Wallace vibe. I just need the longer hair. Love that movie, man.
I don't know about that one. You made that up and no one tweeted that. Yeah. I'm calling you out.
No, I'm telling you, man. Someone A13359, maybe it's a dummy account.
It is. It's a dummy account. And it's your dad on the couch.
Could be a bot. Could be him. All right, so we have Leafs-Bruins coming up. I've got 5 storylines going into the series, and then I've got the 8 series, ranking them 1 through 8, toughest to predict. Which one do you guys want first?
Toughest to predict.
Toughest to predict? You want to start there? Okay, we're working under the presumption here Vegas wins tonight in Vegas-Edmonton. Okay?
Yeah.
So Vegas-Edmonton, Dallas versus L.A. Okay, number 8, we'll start from the easiest up to the toughest. Number 8 is naturally Rangers Capitals. There's not much more to get into there. I think everyone would concede that. It's a massive underdog. On FanDuel, the numbers are off the charts in terms of the Rangers being favorites. I think if the Caps can push it to 6, they'd be happy. I think the Rangers probably win that in 5. I could see the Capitals getting a game. But I have the Rangers, Caps, Rangers winning and Rangers winning quick is a relatively easy prediction. I have
Short order.
I have Canes Isles number 7 on the list. Again, I think the way Carolina's playing, man, they have been coming down the stretch incredibly strong. The goaltending concerns me, admittedly, but Varlamov is playing for the Islanders. It's not Sorokin standing on his head.
Yeah, but dude, look what he's going up against. If Freddie Anderson or Kochetkov go in there and they're not at their best, you ain't winning squat. So Varlamov or the other kid could magically, Noodles, don't you think you're going to see him sooner or later and he could go lights out?
He's a superstar from a talent perspective, and he has proven that he can be a top-tier goalie. So he is an X factor for me, but I agree with Hayes. On paper, Carolina should be the better team.
They are the better
win.
team.
They are. They are. Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
So I don't disagree with, because I think those two at least have some form of predictability, where the other six he's about to talk about, it's coin flips, literally.
Exactly. And that doesn't mean the Caps can't win or the Islanders can't win. That's not the point of the practice. The question is it easier to predict than the other ones? And I think it is.
Practice. I love
yes,
that
everything.
line.
I feel like I'm moving.
Dude, you are firing
today.
on all
Feeling
cylinders
good.
today.
I've got the Cyclops vibes going, or what was it again? The Green Lantern. I've got a Green Lantern vibe. Islanders. Again, Islanders, Canes at 7. Canes minus 350 to win the series on FanDuel. Number 6, I have Dallas, LA. I think Dallas wins this series. I really like the way they're playing. I think Ottinger clearly has got a lot of pressure on him, like many other goalies. There's 16 starters. They all have pressure. That's probably the 16 players facing the most pressure in the Stanley Cup playoffs, whoever's in net for these 16 teams. But if Ottinger plays well, I like LA. I do. I think they've played really well this year. I think it's kind of a bummer they're in the position that they're in, but their goaltending scares me a little bit. Them going on the road, I really like the way Dallas plays. I have Dallas beating LA as the third most predictable series.
Yeah.
All right?
LA, though, they got some X factors of their own.
Well,
obviously, I'm concerned about their goaltending. Mm-hmm. Although this guy's getting to a point where I think it's highly unlikely that he wakes up and pulls his head out of the clouds. Like, what if Pierre-Luc Dubois becomes a monster? Like, that could happen. We've seen him do it against the Maple Leafs.
Yes.
Where he was that big, strong bully in the Columbus bubble series, and it's like, wow, that guy's a monster. Could he snap out of it and be that guy? I mean, he could. The likelihood, probably not great, but it's almost like they get Byfield cooking. If Dubois wakes up and Talbot can make a save, then they got a problem for Dallas. But it's all those things happening. Yeah, that's the question.
It's got to be a what if. And that's why I would agree then that series is the third, hardest, easiest, whatever to predict.
Easiest, yep.
Talbot, I was looking at this because I was, I'm doing voting stuff, and I was looking at Talbot's numbers are actually quite impressive. Like goals saved above expectation, all of that type of stuff. He is very impressive. But that being said, to me, Dallas is the better team.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay, so there you go. Now the fourth easiest or fifth toughest, whichever way you want to label it, Florida-Tampa. I have Florida winning this series. I know Tampa's been coming on strong. I know they've had their number in the past. I just feel like Florida is set up to perform in the playoffs. I think the fact that they have home ice is substantial, although they did a couple of years ago as well. Vasilevsky scares me. He might scare Bob, but if Bob plays anywhere close, he will not replicate what he did last year. It's impossible to. But if he's anywhere close and it's a wash in net, and let's not forget, Vasilevsky in the playoffs last year was awful. He was horrible against the Leafs in the first round. Maybe he was dealing with an injury. He ended up having the hip surgery. But if the goalies can wash out, I like Florida here. It's not easy. I could totally see Tampa winning this. I mean, FanDuel's got the Panthers minus 176 to win the series. That's not a significant favorite, but it is a favorite. I think it's worthy of those odds. I like their mojo. I like what they established last year. They proved they can be clutch.
There is a ghost there. Florida Panthers won the President's Trophy and got dummied by the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yep.
Flat out dummied.
Yes. Now, so Tampa was still in Tampa was in their cup window at that point. Are they still there? I don't know. I think Florida is in one. I'm not sure Tampa is. I have Florida winning that series, and they're at number 5 in terms of the toughest series to predict.
Yeah, it is tough. Like now we're going to be splitting hairs because I think they're all coin flips. I just wouldn't sleep on and not that we're sleeping on Tampa. It's just you have to choose one. Tampa, man. Like if Sergachev all of a sudden starts playing next week, their D is like Hedman's had the second best statistical season of his career.
Been great.
Vasilevsky looks like he's back. We just saw the Kucherov guy last night. Stamkos with 40. Cirelli career year. Hagel career year. Nick Paul career year.
I hear you.
That's gonna. I'm telling you that series might be for me like that, I think is going to be must watch. Like that is going to be a bloodbath too.
Noodles, I'm gonna rephrase it for you. I think you're thinking of that series as a possible upset for sure.
I don't even know if Tampa wins, is that an upset?
It is based on the odds, but
based on Hazy B saying he thinks Florida's going to win.
I have Florida winning. I mean, I understand why you would pick Tampa. I would say you listed off a lot of things that have gone their way, which you deserve to. You can list off a lot that's got Florida's way too.
100%.
Let's not forget.
I in the end, I probably agree with you and think that Florida's the better team. It's just I'm not sleeping on Tampa.
No,
like that's what I'm saying. Like that is, it is going to be a hell of a series.
Yep.
That's going to be a hell of a series.
I agree with you. I have Florida winning, but I have Florida. This is really a difficult practice. I'm even looking at my own list, and I'm like, maybe I should be jockeying things around. I have number 4.
You got a day to change them till tomorrow.
I might change it tomorrow. Tune in tomorrow for a new list. I have Vancouver, Nashville at 4. I like this series for Vancouver. I do, because Nashville's history won't scare you. That said, I'm sure Nashville's looking at Vancouver and says they don't have any playoff history either. But Demko coming back, and he looked great the other night. Like he got really tested the other night.
Yeah.
It still scares me. It's only one game, but he's back. By all accounts, he's healthy. If he gets back to where he was prior to the injury, he can match or exceed what Saros is going to bring. You can play the match-off game. Yossi's been outstanding. Hughes been better this year. Yossi's maybe been slightly better in the second half, but I think Hughes can match that off. And I just feel like Vancouver's got more weapons. It's an interesting battle of two former players taking over behind a bench in Brunette and Tocchet, and them pushing all the right buttons this year. They've both done a remarkable job. Again, it's a very difficult series to predict, but I think Vancouver wins probably in 7. I think it's going deep. I think Nashville possibly had their run, and there's two ways to look at that. They've been playing as if got to get to the playoffs, playoff hockey for a long time, or you can say you peaked, you got there, and did you run out of gas come playoff time, where Vancouver's just been cruising basically since Christmas. I like Vancouver here, though, but I think it's very difficult to predict. Vancouver, Nashville, the 4th most difficult series to predict.
Yeah.
Those big boys for Vancouver, it's another step, Hayes, because I've been saying for the last couple of years, Quinn Hughes, Pettersson, Demko, they got to start playing big boy hockey if they're going to take the next step. Now they've done that. They won the division. Now let's see what you got. Just like Patrick Maroon said, who's got it and who doesn't, because this is a totally different ballgame. I fully believe they can do it. Mm-hmm. I think Quinn Hughes could dominate a playoff series. I think Pettersson and Miller up front can too. But proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, you do.
They did. How deep did they go in the bubble? Didn't they go to? Was it conference final?
They won at least. I think they won 2 rounds. I believe.
think it was conference final.
I think
in the bubble. I can't remember who they.
I think they played Dallas and got beat, because wasn't it Tampa Dallas in the final of the bubble? I believe
that's right.
Yeah,
that is correct.
In Vancouver, like that was Demko's kind of coming out, because that's what Markstrom was injured a little bit, and Demko pushed through and was awesome. So, I mean, they've got a little bit of experience, but this is the time for Hughes, as you just mentioned. Oh, Hughes, Pettersson, Miller, all the boys, Demko to grab it and take it to the next level and consistently. I think they can do it as well, too. Yep. I really do.
I'm pulling for them. I think it'll be a great story. All right, this is where I could have a 3-way tie. Like, in all honesty, the final 3 series are incredibly difficult to predict, but I have Colorado-Winnipeg at number 3, toughest to predict. This, I'm looking at my own list, and I could easily make this 2, but again, there probably is a 3-way tie. I have Colorado-Winnipeg. I will admit, a week and a half ago, I was pretty heavy on Colorado to win this. Regardless of what's happened during the regular season, it's a lot like the Leafs and Bruins. Winnipeg's dummied Colorado this year, dummied them. They're 3-0. They've outscored them 14-3 or something. They have the far superior goalie, and now they have home ice. So I have come back to the means here. I am somewhat in the middle on this. I could see this breaking both ways. I think if Winnipeg's going to win, it's got to be 5-on-5. The special team disparity is huge. Colorado's a top 10 power play, top 10 PK, and Winnipeg's been in the bottom third in both categories all year. And if it turns into a shootout, I like a lot of their offensive weapons in Winnipeg, but not as much as McKinnon, Rantanen, and McCarr. I mean, no, they're not going to match that. If Hellebuck doesn't make stops and it turns into 5-4 games, 6-5 games, they're going to lose. but I still lean Colorado, but it's really close. Like FanDuel's got this, what do they have? The series odds at Colorado minus 138, which is really, you're getting good odds for Winnipeg to win this.
Well, your boy Georgia better start putting his gear on because Greg talked about him last night. He's needs some adjusting when puck drops for that. Like
troublesome.
Well, I mean, he's their guy. Annunen is not playing. It's Georgiev or bust. That's what it is. And he's got a bunch of wins. He's got, he's their guy. They've committed to him. I think they tried to shore up other positions at the deadline instead and said, Georgiev, we're sinking or swimming with him.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. He does have to hold up, but it didn't matter. Whoever you got at the deadline, it's Hellebuck's winning that matchup head to head. Like Hellebuck's going to win the Vezina.
Yes,
flat out. He's the best goaltender. He's getting Hart votes. I know that for a fact.
He should get Hart votes, and he should win the Vezina unanimously. There is nobody close to him. Like we always say that every year.
There'll be one dummy.
There probably will be.
I shouldn't say dummy because it'll end up being somebody I know, but there'll be one.
There shouldn't be. There is nobody close to Hellebuck this year. It should be unanimous. And when you think about it, like Hellebuck's going to win the Vezina, Quinn Hughes is going to win the Norris. I think Rick Tocchet's going to win the Jack Adams. Like a lot of Canadian content for the award show. And I guess it was announced they are going to have an award show. They just announced that today. I'm not sure if it's in Vegas or.
Let me guess, Vegas.
Probably.
Vegas.
Yeah, maybe it's in Salt Lake. They should have it at Salt Lake, and they should
top of the mountain. Set up some chairs.
Yeah. Right during the day, no alcohol. All right, number 2. I have the Edmonton Oilers and Vegas Golden Knights as the toughest series to predict. I like Edmonton here. I think Edmonton can win this series. I think they'll win this series, but Vegas scares me. It scares everybody because of who they are, what they've done. Stone is going to be back. Hurdle looks good. If Aiden Hill's playing,
Carrier's back today. They're all coming.
Yeah, they're all going to be back.
They're playing. They're playing.
They're all playing. So you're going to get the champs, arguably better on paper this year than they were last year. That said, got to go on the road, right? In the Edmonton Vegas series, Edmonton was on the road. Vegas had home ice. This is going to flip, where Edmonton's going to have home ice. Edmonton is more hungry. I think Edmonton's better today than they were a year ago. I think they've got more experience. They're healthy. They've got quality depth. This series, if this is what breaks out, if Vegas wins tonight, Edmonton-Vegas is just a remarkable first round. It's going to be incredibly tough to predict. I'd be shocked if it didn't go 6, if not 7. I lean Edmonton, but it's like 51-49. Edmonton-Vegas, second toughest series to rank.
There's so many X factors. Connor McDavid said it in training camp, Hayes, cup or bust. They don't know what the future holds. There's big time question marks coming up with contracts to the star players, and it seems like that was the mission heading into the season, regardless of the start they had, and now they're ready to cook. But man, you go back to last year where McDavid and Draisaitl were so good, it seemed like they both scored every night, and they still got beat by Las Vegas. They still got beat with how good those guys were playing. That is scary. And part of the reason was Stuart Skinner wasn't exactly at his best. He got pulled a lot last year in the playoffs. Didn't he get pulled at least 5 times?
No. No, it was a couple. I think it was 3 total.
That's still a fair amount.
Still enough.
In the playoffs.
I think it was more than 3 noodles, I swear, because it happened a couple times in the LA series and a couple times against Vegas. It was a lot for a starting goaltender to a point where you say, how are you going to win a cup if you keep yanking your starting goalie out of the net?
Well, I think you're right. He's got to be better than he was in the playoffs last year. And the thing is the Oilers, I think, are a better team this year. Like they've got better depth. Like, adding Henrique, guys like Corey Perry, guys like that have settled in. McDavid and Draisaitl still have to drive that bus. But you need saves and you need defensive play, like systematic defensive play. That's the one thing that I think Edmonton has to learn is to play a patient defensive game. And they did a lot of that during that stretch where it was like they weren't winning 9-6. They were winning 3-1. I honest to God, this is a pick 'em. It's a 50-50.
Yeah, it is.
Because it's and I could throw Winnipeg in there, and I'm going to throw the Leafs and Boston in there too. Like these are pick 'ems where it's like there's going to be a TSN turning point. There's going to be something that goes, hey, this is the difference in that series. But
I mean,
go ahead.
I'll give you one guy for the Oilers that's an X factor for their success. It's Evan Bouchard. He plays big minutes for those guys, and yes, he's got the Bouch bomb. Yes, he can run the power play. Well, not run it, but he can be the guy back there shooting puck. But he plays big minutes, and if he falls asleep like he's done regular season numerous times where it's just careless and it's like waving at a guy, if he's out there logging 20-plus minutes a night and he's costly in his own zone, it could be a major factor in the series. He's got to play big boy hockey defensively if they want to advance because he's that important and plays that much for them.
Well, yeah, he's got 82 points. Literally, this guy has 82 points.
Noodles, I get it, but
incredible.
that doesn't mean nothing if he's a problem in his own zone and it's something that they sniff out and want to prey on it. It's problematic.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying this is a guy who offensively is very gifted, runs the power play from the back end, is a really good first pass, but he has to be rock solid. I was going to say the other guy, Darnell Nurse, the $9 million defenseman. Like they're paying him a lot of money to be a shutdown guy, to be a physical force.
Right up there too.
Those are the guys when you start to look at it is, yes, you're expecting McDavid, Draisaitl to do their thing. Like RNH, I think I circle Evander Kane. That's the guy who, if Evander Kane shows up and is a pain in the ass to play against, like he dominated against the Calgary Flames a couple years ago, they didn't have an answer for him. That's the guy, because I think you start to check off and go, okay, this guy can match that guy. You do the match game. What they have, Evander Kane's a unicorn because he's a top six forward who can fight, hit, do it all, be a bully. He was
number 3. He's been number 3 performance-wise behind McDavid and Draisaitl in the playoffs. And I don't know what he's been doing on the bench or getting in arguments with people or pissing people off, but I'll guarantee you that guy will be ready come puck drop because in playoffs he's dynamite. Big, strong dude, tough, that can score, and he's got to perform, And
they got Corey Perry too, right? Perry's got as much playoff history as anybody in that series.
But that being said, last thing on this, Vegas has the pedigree.
Yeah,
These guys just went through it. They know how to play. They know how to win. They found a way to win. And Bruce Cassidy's a hell of a coach. So you don't sleep on Vegas just because, hey, Edmonton's better this year. You got to go. And you know what? If you're going to slay the dragon, do it in round 1.
Yeah,
you got to do it. These are the
Exactly.
guys that beat you last year. You're going right at it.
Well, and that leads to number 1. I have Leafs-Bruins at number 1. Again, I think the top 3 were all tied effectively. I had a difficult time really jockeying, and maybe it's because we follow the Leafs as closely as we do, or I live in Toronto. I see both these teams, regardless of what's happened through the regular season, as teams that are really good teams. I think they match up pretty well against each other. I think there's similar certainties and uncertainties. Obviously, the Leafs have their history, and specifically with the Bruins. It's been 5 years since they've played them, and the Bruins, are a slight favorite on FanDuel. They're minus 120 to win the series. That's probably appropriate based on home ice, based on what they've done, over their history. But if you look at their records, it's like an eerily similar season. Like the Bruins had 47 wins, the Leafs had 46. The Bruins were just better in overtime and in shootouts, including twice against the Leafs, where they beat them in overtime. So it's not as if like there was really any discrepancy in terms of the regular season. They're both relatively healthy. I've got that as the most difficult one to predict. And I was thinking on the way in, like with the Leafs, this will be the 8th year we do this, 9th if you include the 2013 playoff series, where I have come into the studio prior to the series and said anything from I think the Leafs win and win quick to I think they win but in a tough, hard-nosed series in 7 to I think they lose in a tough, hard-nosed game series in 7 to I think they lose and lose quick. Like it's been a complete variety. It doesn't make a difference what the prediction is. It'll be on the Leafs to perform. It'll be on the Bruins to perform. But I think it's going 7. And a large part of that is their history. But I'd be surprised if this doesn't go 7 games.
This is not a popular list, Brian. I'm not not popular. This is not common with what everybody else thinks. I think you've gone out a limb with this. Everybody says, oh, Leafs-Bruins, Bruins will give it to them again in short order. Just because of the history and what the Maple Leafs have done in the playoffs, I think that your list and having that matchup at the top for the toughest to predict would not be common to, if you had 20, this would be the only one like that, I would believe.
Yeah, you're probably right. Definitely non-Leaf fans. Like, everyone's going to goof on the Leafs and say, of course they're going to get smoked.
Well, that's the common thought, right?
Yeah.
It's like, the Leafs history, what they do in the playoffs, their star players disappear. The 79, they haven't beat them there ever, and everything's against them. And the Gong Show in 2013, and they're bigger and tougher, and they're going to slap them around. And William Nylander who knows if he's going to show up, and Marner and company. It's against the grain. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Well, but that's why you play the games, and honestly, all of those, there's a 5-pack of pick'ems, literally coin flips, maybe more. That's what's good and bad, because there's going to be some great teams that go out in this first round, and to me, if change will happen, it's how you go out, because that would be the other thing too. Like, if the Edmonton Oilers lose to Vegas in 7. They got to blow it up, or they just weren't good enough to beat that particular team. Same thing, Winnipeg. Winnipeg's a hell of a team. Colorado just beats them. That's the interesting part for me is the overreaction if certain teams lose. But there's going to be some great teams that are going to go home in the first round.
Well, and that's, I guess, my reasoning behind this is that I think Edmonton will win. I lean Colorado. I lean Vancouver. With the Leafs and Bruins, I'm not sure how that's going to go. It feels like a coin flip to me. I understand the history. I get the Bruins. The Leafs laid a dragon last year. I don't think enough is being made of the fact that the Bruins choked last year, and Ullmark choked last year. Right? Ullmark, I think, is going to get the start. Ullmark choked. It was bad.
Well, they've got sources on that.
Too. Sources on
well,
that. It's not.
I don't know for sure. It just what I've read and heard out of Boston is Montgomery is an Ullmark guy, kind of first and foremost. But Swayman's played the Leafs well this year. All right. Well, subject to change. We'll see what comes of it as of tonight and tomorrow.
Very good work.
Darren Payne coming up.
Good work.
Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right. Darren Payne coming up. Megan Chaika later this afternoon. I'm seeing Gregory Wyshynski tweet out that the new team will be called Utah instead of Salt Lake City.
Yeah, I played for the Utah Grizzlies.
Well, it'll just be Utah, and also do not expect a mascot or an official team nickname until the second season.
Dude, that's so dumb.
Yeah.
You've got time. Figure out the name. It's not that hard. Why would anyone want to do that? That's insane.
It'll just be Utah Hockey Club.
Oh, God,
wasn't that the Washington football team?
Yes.
How many years did they do
It was a few years. But that was because of their previous name, and it happened quickly, which I guess this has too.
It doesn't take that long to figure a name.
Come on, get something for us. All right, let's come up with a name, all right?
Yeah.
Let's come up with a name. We'll name them right now. This afternoon, we'll name them. All right?
Okay.
It's going to happen. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.